Let us look at a game. Any game. It can be anything you like. Whether it be a racing game, shooting game, or maybe even a platformer. It doesn't really matter what game it is. What matters is that you have fun with it. But most games tend to not have lasting longevity. Many games try, but not all succeed. Games such as Hitman Blood Money or Thief rely on replaying the game and finding out new ways to complete your objectives, while for other games either the multiplayer experience or the open-ended sandbox nature carries the game all the way. Games that suffer though are mostly linear gaming experiences. For instance, Max Payne 3 or Crysis, which are fun games overall but don't have that much replay value when compared to other games. Let's look at an extreme example. Doom. Doom is an outdated game, and people that are new to gaming might think that a game that is over 20 years old should be dead or dying. It at least should be. The graphics and sounds are dated, the gameplay and level design, as good as they might be, also don't really live up to modern expectations. Yet, the game is still alive and kicking, with thousands of players, old and young, still playing the game to this day. The reason? It actually is quite simple. Doom is easy to modify, and no, it doesn't only have a lackluster snap map editor. I mean, backwards engineered engines, a released source code, dozens of source ports, modding tools, easy to use mapping programs, and a low barrier of entry. You want to make a Doom mod? You can start making one today, just like that. Due to modders, the game managed to survive for over 20 years and counting. Ever more impressive mods are released as we speak, and they don't stop coming. Some mods even resemble finished games, because they become their own games. Take a look at Total Chaos, Blade of Agony, or Adventures of Square. Yes, the core is still Doom, but since very few if none of the assets from Doom are used, and a lot of custom mapping and scripting is utilized, those mods are finished and complete gaming experiences. So, if you are like me and did eventually grow tired of Doom, you can just download Blade of Agony to experience something new. Or how about some maps? Or what about a gameplay enhancement mod like Brutal Doom, which modernizes the gameplay? Longevity is something the casual player might not necessarily need, but as an enthusiast myself, I do feel that it is very important. My favorite games include the Half-Life series, Doom 1 and 2, Mount & Blade, Fallout New Vegas, and Postal 2. Those games have one thing in common: they are very moddable. Don't like some gameplay aspects? Is the game a bit lame after you replayed it a dozen times? Do you like the gameplay but would love to improve the visuals a bit? Well, you can. I think it is no coincidence that most of my favorite games are moddable. Even earlier multiplayer titles by Valve like Team Fortress 2 or Counter-Strike Source are excellent modding sandboxes. You can create entire game modes, maps, even weapons, and use those at custom servers. If you explore the custom player-made servers of those games, you will find the most absurd and fun mods, maps, scripts, and communities that play in those specific maps 24/7. It's an irreplaceable experience that sadly seems to be disappearing in front of our eyes. Many games have another problem: they are lackluster or sometimes completely broken. Mods can fix that and could make a game more enjoyable even though it normally isn't that good. Some examples of this are Bethesda games, the Stalker games, Hatred, and Postal 3. Bethesda games tend to come out in a broken and pathetic state, bug-ridden, some bugs minor and others game-breaking.
These NPCs are not.
Bethesda relies mostly on their community to fix the games for them, which is not how you should treat your fanbase. While the Stalker games are good enough without mods, mods can enhance the games to such a degree that they become much greater than the vanilla experience. What about Hatred? Hatred is a bit of a mess, and I will make a video specifically on that game to explore what I like and what I don't like about it. But to condense it into the essentials, it lacks content and is very unbalanced. What really helps this game is the inclusion of mod support. You can now play the game in a vanilla isometric view, or use a third or first person mod, and even colorize the entire video to refresh the aesthetics of it. This really saved the game for me, and I believe for many others as well. What about Postal 3? Well, it doesn't really have mods that would make the game playable or somewhat passable. But there is a mod in development called Catharsis Reborn. I am a part of this project and voiced a character that will appear in the final version of the Total Conversion mod. I did some minor work here and there in addition to that, so keep in mind that I look at this project from a very different perspective. To showcase some gameplay, I got exclusive footage from the co-founder of Whackjob Interactive and got permission to share it with you guys. This mod might be the savior of Postal 3. Catharsis Reborn is being developed by very talented people that love the franchise and want to make the Postal 3 that was showcased in the alpha footage Running with Scissors showed off many years ago. I did get my hands on an early build of Catharsis Reborn, and I gotta say, it plays very good. The finished map, that is the starting area, is polished and looks amazing for a sourced mod. When I played the early playable version of this game, with not a lot to do in it, I actually had fun running around and killing NPCs. Because the camera was actually good and the environments feel as if they belong in an official Postal game. Seeing how the development is progressing on this project internally, I am confident that this mod will be something the Postal fans would love to see. After talking to the co-founders and developers in the team, it is quite clear that making this mod is hard. The source code of Postal 3 has never been released, and the code we have is pretty hard to understand. But the support of Running with Scissors and some former developers of Postal 3 themselves serves the team immensely in providing lots of motivation and even resources. The model of the main protagonist you see there? It was actually made by a former developer that worked on the original game years ago. So, modding can't only enhance a game, it can rebuild it completely and make a better product that far outshines the original. Some games though don't get the love and support they deserve. I especially want to showcase two games that I think would benefit greatly from modding. Dark Messiah of Might and Magic, one of the best hack and slash games, if not the best hack and slash on the PC. The gameplay is addicting, a lot of fun, and has a very sandboxy feel and nature to it. The campaign sucks though, and I would love to see source mods based on this game, or just simply map packs and player-made content that further enhances the gameplay Dark Messiah offers. It is a source game, so it's relatively easy to mod in comparison to other games based on other engines, but it is rarely done regardless. The other game I would like to present is Hitman Blood Money or any other Hitman game with traditional Hitman gameplay. The games have a lot of replay value on their own, but mod support could further aid the popularity and support for the game. And I would be interested to see what creative minds could come up with a game like Hitman. I have a very positive stance on modding, to the point where mod support is a legitimate selling point for me. But sadly, it seems that many game developers and publishers don't see the values and strengths mods offer. Creating a game with mod support is very hard, and I don't blame developers for not spending time and resources on a development kit for modding, when they either aren't competent enough to develop it, or simply do not have the money. Some companies though did put a large emphasis in modding and user-created content in the past, and now seem to leech on creators and meanwhile stomp out their modding communities. Valve is steadily trying to kill modding communities for their games. If intentional or unintentional, it doesn't really matter. Case in point, Team Fortress 2. Custom servers weren't only killed off once, but twice. Meanwhile, they support the creation of in-game items and skins because they could include these items in the game and don't have to create those items themselves, but Valve does not care about player-made game modes and maps anymore. Well, except when they can get money from it. Bethesda, which I mentioned before, has also a very toxic relationship with their modding community. First, they had and still have the audacity to release unpolished and broken products, expecting their fans to patch the game for them. And then they tried to monetize mods and luckily failed miserably. The failure aside, they still added the Creation Club to Fallout 4 and Skyrim with embarrassingly simple mods that are far outshined by any Creation Access mods has on offer for free. Less and less games seem to support mod creation overall. It is a good short-term business decision, since if a player wants more, they need to buy the newer games. But it is the most anti-consumer stance a game company can have. They should support mods, they should support creativity, but nowadays they tend to destroy it. What I really don't understand is why this behavior is even necessary at all. Modders learn your engines. They know how to make maps, models, and write code in your engine. You can hire your biggest fans so they make games for you. Thinking of which, you know the game mode Capture the Flag? Well, a modder is responsible for creating that. Some of your favorite games stem from modding, like most if not all of the multiplayer title Valve has ever released. Modding is much more important than you might think though. Crackers, pirates, and people that emulate games are the second coming of Christ for many gamers. It is weird to say this for me since I am not a supporter of game piracy or even cracking games to a specific extent. But if there is no other way to play a game, I feel justified to download it and not feel bad about it. So you wanna start playing PlayStation 1 games, but you don't want to spend loads of money for primitive games and a console you are maybe not gonna use every day? Emulate it. You bought a game but cannot play it since your internet sucks and the always online DRM needs to check in first before you play the game? Crack it. There is no legal way for you to get a game in your specific country? Pirate it. The original developers of the game are not gonna lose a lot of money by you doing this, if not lose any at all. Let's say you live in Eastern Europe and don't even have money to buy games. The developers that made the game will not see you paying for them anyways. Game developers focus more on hindering the player to play their games, and this starts with hindering accessibility of the files in the game. If there is an ease to mod the game, there most of the times also exists an ease to cheat in the game or pirate it. Many publishers don't want to preserve games anymore, it simply doesn't make a lot of money. Instead, they want to limit the accessibility of games to the degree where you don't even have access to the game files yourself. Many publishers see streaming as the future and it may be it, but if it happens, expect hundreds of games to vanish without you being able to play them ever again. Say bye-bye to mods and don't expect to play any of these games if your internet is not the best on offer. Remember Lawbreakers? Yeah, me neither, because no one can download and actually play this darn game. That's the damage DRM systems inflict on games sometimes. Am I proud that I sometimes resort to piracy, cracking, and emulation? Not at all, but the industry simply doesn't give me good alternatives. Modding is responsible for allowing you to shape an already good game into your own personal perfect game. But it can also save games from irrelevancy and death. Modding also enables you to play the games without restrictions, and rarely it even gives you the chance of playing games that were never meant to release, or simply were abandoned by the original developers. Mods are what makes me play the same games over and over and over again. They inspire developers and have a big driving force in the industry. But sadly it seems that big publishers prefer to hinder accessibility and ability to modify the files of any given game. While casual players might not really care for restrictions on modding, not enabling modding communities to thrive stifles creativity and might even hinder a game from surviving for an extended amount of time. If modding wasn't a thing, the gaming market wouldn't be as exciting as it is today. But part of me knows, whatever new game comes out, someone will at least try to mod it one day.